Okay, I'll start with my left. Honorable Member for Banjul North. Thank you. All cannot take the floor at the same time.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so.
Honorable Speaker, I think as the host of this National Assembly, it is really befitting to be given the opportunity to be the first NAM to intervene with regards to the address of the President. Well, fun is intended. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as you have indicated, the President came before this August Assembly in fulfillment of Section 77, subsection 1 of the Constitution, which states, I read, the executive powers and the National Assembly, that is Section 77, subsection 1. The President shall, at least once in each year, attend a sitting of the National Assembly and address a session on the condition of the Gambia, the policies of the government, and the administration of the state. This the President had done by coming before us to make this address, albeit very late, although there is no time specification as to when he should come before the National Assembly to deliver this address. But it is coming at the end of the third quarter, and we only have 3 months to go for the end of this legislative year. Of course, it would have been very interesting if it had come earlier, so that, as you know, this arm of the state is supposed to work with the executive to serve the nation in our legislative functions, in our functions as oversight. We would have anticipated what the executive wanted to implement during the course of the legislative year and not speculate. So that is one of the reasons why it is important if we have these addresses earlier. And this may also be the last presidential address for this 5th legislature. It may be the last presidential address for this 5th legislature. So it is a very important session. Honorable Speaker, I want to start by talking about the conclusion of the address of the President. The President emphasized tolerance. As we all know, we are heading towards another electoral cycle, starting with presidential elections, followed by National Assembly and council elections. It is time when the owners of this country, citizens, sovereign citizens, are given the opportunity by the Constitution to determine the destiny of this country, to elect those that they would want to entrust the fate of this country in terms of managing it, to address their welfare, to serve their interests. Citizens who feel that they are capable in serving the population present themselves to vie for the assumption of that responsibility or those responsibilities, presidential, National Assembly, all the other elective offices. So therefore, that opportunity, that process should be such that, as the President states, be done without hindrance. But may I also add, without inducement or intimidation. President exhorts political parties and political party leaders, as well as influential members of the society, to preach peace, so that these elections will pass peacefully. And at the end of the day, the verdict of the people prevails. So we have the responsibility as representatives of the people to ensure that peace prevails. We can present our programs before the people and allow them to make their choice. Of course, for me, I would wish that it is an informed choice. But it should be done without hindrance, without inducement, without intimidation, without dividing the people. So that's a good way of starting off my intervention, I believe. The President also indicated that this National Assembly had supported requests for multiple projects, the implementation of multiple government projects, which is an indication that government cannot operate without this arm of the state. Whatever intervention the government makes, and there is success is registered, the ownership goes both to the executive and the legislature. That is why I always emphasize that we are not antagonists. Our duty as a legislature is to ensure that the executive delivers. Because if it does not, the people that we represent miss out, suffer. So we should collaborate. Of course, one may say that if you may belong to a political party and say that the party I belong to, if it is given the opportunity, could have done better than what is being done. That can be said, but that does not mean that you should not support anything that comes before the assembly that seeks to promote the welfare of the population that we are supposed to represent. So that's the emphasis, that anything that one parades as success, anything that one parades as failure with regards to the executive, this National Assembly is also partly responsible, because it is here that we approve budgets, it's here that we pass laws, it is here that we perform oversight. The President said in his introductory remarks that his address focuses mainly on critical issues and concerns requiring sustained attention. He talks about issues that embrace policy, programs and project interventions, as well as legislative matters. Well, here I need to register my disappointment, in the sense that I was expecting that, I wanted this to be the legacy of this executive. Legislative and electoral reforms. Although it may be coming very late in the day, The Constitution stalled, and it was in these very chambers. It could have been salvaged by us, but I've seen that that's not very popular here. Notwithstanding, I believe that there could have been some reforms with key constitutional provisions that augurs well for democracy, that serves the interest of all of us. The issue of second round, the issue of term limit. These are not entrenched clauses. They are provisions that can be amended by this august body. The issue of diaspora voting. These are issues that could have been addressed by this legislative body. I'm not sure whether the time, because it's talking about 3 months, published in the Gazette, whether we have time from now towards that. I don't think this is something that one can shortcut to be brought by the national executive as a matter of urgency. But I was really expecting that something would have been done, at least to be the legacy of this executive. But this has been, according to the president, the needs and demands, needs and expectations, according to his address, needs and expectations of the population. And this is a need, so these are needs, these are expectations of the population. These key things, these 2 things, these 3 constitutional issues, if they were addressed, at least could have ameliorated. Of course, there are many things that we could have done as entailed in the draft constitution that was brought before us. Far-reaching changes, reforms, institutional, constitutional, electoral, administrative. But at least this could have served a purpose. But anyway, it can be treated as history. So the president, as I said, these are the things that I was really expecting. On finance, he started with finance and economic affairs. We were informed that 2020 was a challenging year. As you all know, COVID-19 pandemic, very devastating. It distorted so many things. And that to perform well under the circumstance is really a feat. And we were being told by the president that despite the challenges, domestic resource mobilization in 2020 amounted to $13.4 billion, and $11.8 billion of which was tax revenue, whilst $1.8 billion was non-tax revenue. For me, I don't know whether it could have been done, but I would really have loved that non-tax revenue ups this balance. Should have been the higher scale, and the opportunity exists. This country is poor because we are not harnessing our potentials. The potentials exist in this country. For the government to rely on non-tax revenue, for non-tax revenue to be more than tax revenue in equation. But this, of course, would require investment in the productive base of the economy. But that's not the direction.
Honorable, sorry, sometimes your voice seems to fade. You know the microphone is low and you're standing up, so you need to adjust a little bit.
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. I will do that. And we were also told by the President that the government was able to manage to secure debt principal payment deferral with external creditors to the tune of 4.8 billion for a period of 5 years. This is welcome news. We are also told that debt service relief and debt service suspension were also secured. But as I said earlier, I'm of the conviction, of the belief, that Gambia could have benefited not only from debt service referral, debt principal payment deferral, but debt cancellation if we had stayed on the course of reform, the reforms that we promised. There was so much goodwill for this country after 2016, when we had a peaceful change of government through the ballot box. Peaceful change of government through the ballot box. There was so much goodwill that if we had really pressed on the reforms that we promised, we could have gotten more. And as I said, debt cancellation. Debt cancellation. Because you know, debt of this country to the tune of 77, going to $78 billion, that's really unsustainable. It's really choking. So that's why this suspension is giving us the respite to be able to garner resources to fix certain gaps in the economy. But as I said, the reforms could have really paid a lot of dividend, particularly in this area. May I go to that basic and secondary education? Basic and secondary education, we are told that the ministry initiated something to motivate, had initiatives, implemented an initiative to motivate its personnel and reward performance through the creation of new positions in various cadres and mass promotions based on merit. This is a welcome development, because as you know, staff motivation is really key. And as I have always been saying, there is need for salary reform. We need to have decent wage for all workers, decent wage. Some may call it minimum wage, but for me, it's decent wage. The least paid in the civil service or in this country is taking home something that can sustain him or her up to the next month. So this is really a welcome development. We need to replicate it, intensify it, and for it to be across the board. Government even needs to come up with this restructuring of the salary scale, pay scale, to ensure that there is decent wage for everybody, particularly those at the lower rung. And of course, the issue of out-of-school children phenomenon, these efforts are being made. The ministry should continue to create the mechanism that would help to introduce and integrate technical education, particularly at a very early age. And that's what the Ministry of Basic Education is doing. How do we help young people at a very early age to develop their potentials to become technicians in these technical areas? As you know, there are skill gaps in this country. You hear people often complain about certain skills where they would not find, of course I'm not xenophobic, where they would not find Gambians doing it. Was that where they come? They said foreigners. For me, I will not say it. Because Gambians are also going outside offering such services to those countries. So if they had taken that similar posture, the solution is not to condemn or to lament over foreigners coming and taking our jobs. The issue is, let us help them develop the capacity so that jobs will be given to them. If you need service and you don't have Gambians to do it, so and you need the service to be done, and somebody is doing it, you don't need to complain about anything. So, and I think starting it at this lower stage, lower basic, is a way, is the right direction. Honorable Vice President, Madam Vice President, we need to develop our workforce to make them technicians. Higher education, the transformative efforts being made to upgrade and enhance institutions like GTTI, MDI, the Gambia College, is welcome. We need to invest in higher education, research, science, and technology. Whatever it takes, we need to invest. This is equally a critical institution. This is a critical sector. This ministry is a critical ministry. And we must do all that it takes to ensure that it gets the support. The last time we were talking about nuclear test ban. But nuclear energy can be for useful for good purposes. It can be it can advance medicine. It can save life. Agriculture, you can use nuclear energy. You can use it in medicine, treat people, treat the sick, make drugs out of it, medicine, and also agriculture. But we cannot harness this potential if we don't have the expertise. And the expertise can only come about if they are trained. And training can only take place if there's investment. And government should be taking the lead. So government should really invest in research, invest in science development, invest in technology. This is the way forward. No country can advance without science and technology as the basis, the engine of development. So the ministry also talking about supporting the out-of-school youth and cited Ndemban as a case in point. So these are the type of investments that we need. And investing in them, investing in these out-of-school young people, unemployed young people, does not only help them to become productive members of society, does not only help in addressing the issue of unemployment, but people lament about crime. And everybody is a victim. Everybody can become a victim of crime. You can be a victim of pickpocketing. You can be a victim of burglary. Just recently, I heard very disheartening news that the staff of Auditor General's office was stabbed near Palma River. A victim. He is not the cause of the trouble of those that the assailants. Society is responsible for it, but he's paying the price. He had paid the price, and the price is his life. And it's not only him. None of us is seeking. So investing in young people by helping them acquire skills is the way to go. And I'm urging this government to really invest in that area. Let's help the young people out from the streets, help them acquire skills, and not only stop at acquiring skills. Because if you help the person to acquire the skills and then does not have the tools to apply those skills to become productive and earn, to sustain himself or herself, then it's not pointless, but you have partially addressed the issue, the challenge, or if you wish, the problem. So investing in skills training should be a matter of priority, and government should have started doing it. It should continue supporting this sector, or if you wish, subsector. Interior, I don't know the state of the security sector reform, but as I have always been saying, there is need for us to support the men and women in uniform, serving the police, the immigration, fire service, prisons, and allied agencies under the purview of the Ministry of the Interior, to develop expertise, to develop capacities in other areas different from their core mandate, so that there can be life after service. When they finish serving 5 years, 10 years, whichever duration, or even up to pension age. And people pension at the age of 60, but they're still capable of serving. So they can serve elsewhere. They can become accountants, teachers, auxiliaries, health auxiliaries, ancillary staff for the health sector, accountants, name it, teachers. We need to build their capacity. It's not only drill, march pass, and being security at installations or for officials. So we must really look into that as well, in addition to motivating them in the work that they do. And of course, I've been emphasizing, we also need to change the notion, the name of force. It's a service that they are rendering. They are rendering service to ensure that there is rule of law and peace prevails. So there is need to change the name from police force to police service, Gambia Police Service. Gambia Armed Forces to Gambia Armed Services. It's services that they are rendering. They shouldn't be instruments of coercion. They are performing servicing. They are performing a service, much needed service in this way. So it's a service. So we must change the notion. And what applies with the police should also apply with the armed forces. How do we help them? We're talking about downsizing. But downsizing, build their capacities. If they are leaving the army to going elsewhere, they must have the capacity, the tools to apply themselves to become productive in society and something to sustain themselves and their families. So it applies across the board, security sector. We need to help them acquire skills other than what their core mandate, requires them to do. Issue of lands, regional government and religious affairs. The land crisis in this country is phenomenal. We have established a lands commission. The land commission really needs to look, I've not seen them visible. Its work, I've not seen the commission visible, but it really needs to be visible and really do the necessary intervention so as to stem the land crisis that abound in this country. And government should also ensure that the land resources are preserved, are put into good use to serve communities, to serve the population. The issue of rent is no longer under the purview of this ministry. It's now transferred to Attorney General's chambers and Minister of Justice. But rent is choking the average families. Majority are renting. They don't own properties. So there is need for regulation, and it's urgent. There is urgent need for regulation. Some landowners, landlords, landladies are really taking advantage of their tenants by increasing rent at will. And some do not even register as required by law. You have middle persons that are also taking advantage of tenants. So government really needs to look into this. Councils, in as much as we would want accountability and transparency from the executive, it is equally important for councils to be accountable and transparent. And it's good that they are introducing this IFMI system at the level of councils. Councils cannot be taking tax and not rendering services. And that's the challenge that we face in this country. Priorities. What are their priorities? Not even prioritizing priorities. So council should be really taken to task. We need to have the legislative environment, oversight environment to ensure that they are effective. And I believe the civil society that is active in taking government to task should also equally be active in taking councils to task, because they are receiving taxpayers' money. And I believe in the principle of this principle, and that's the principle that underlies democracy. No taxation without representation. You cannot tax me and then you ill-represent me, you misrepresent me. It's unjust, it's unfair, it should be unacceptable. Department of Community Development. It's unfortunate that this is a department that can play a critical role in supporting communities. But somewhat, I think, since from the First Republic, I have not seen them as active as they should. But now I've seen some interventions, but they need to be supported so that their presence at the level of communities is felt in terms of their interventions in addressing poverty, addressing unemployment. On the issue of fisheries, the executive is telling us that it intends to bring 3 bills before us: the Water Act, Water Resources Management Authority, and a Meteorological Authority, which is of course separate from water. But water is a right. Access to clean or potable water is a right. We must ensure that this right is fulfilled. So to ensure that every community in this country accesses water. So any efforts towards this direction is welcome, as we are fulfilling a right. We are not offering any favors by ensuring that they have access to clean water, clean drinking water. And there is need for water management because boreholes, because of the challenges that we face, particularly in urban Gambia. There are some areas, some neighborhoods that do not see water as regular as they need it, they would need it. Some communities would stay for days, others at periods of the night when you are supposed to be in bed to rest. That's the time water drips. Sometimes it even drips in our taps. So we need to address the issue of water in this country. NAWEC needs to do more in terms of addressing this need for survival. Water is life. Water is life. So having a water management with regards to these boreholes, I was talking about boreholes, you see boreholes everywhere because people don't have access to water. But it needs to be regulated. It needs to be regulated. Sometimes, who knows? You cannot just go and sink boreholes because, particularly in urban Gambia, where you have these pit latrines, there can be collusion, and then that would be definitely detrimental to the health of the consumer. So I'm not saying that we should stop it. We should allow people to have boreholes, but under supervision, so that it will also promote health. That's the reason. I'm not saying it for restriction, because we shouldn't restrict people from enjoying rights. But there's one thing that I've seen missing all the time, Honorable Vice President, that the government should really invest in this potential, our fishery and fishery resources. We have them in abundance. The potential is also there. Fish ponds, we can also have such interventions. It's a potential that we are not making good use of. Government should really invest in the fishery sector. It creates employment. It supplements nutrition. It generates resources in terms of revenue. But frankly speaking, it's being left idle. So let me put it this way. It's being left idle because it is not being harnessed to address the issue of unemployment in this country. If you go to market, the men that go and help their wives to go to market, you find this challenge. They used to talk about bonga, which was the poor person's, fish. We had it in abundance. Now they're telling you you have 4 bongas at $100, sometimes 3 bongas at $100. Bonga, the cheapest. What about the ones that they are the traditionally expensive ones? They are beyond the reach of the average family. So when we have the sea, the ocean, how many kilometers? Atlantic Ocean, the river, up to the last point, Koina. It's not being harnessed. We could have purchased trawlers. We could have built fish processing plants. Because the catch coming from our oceans, our seas, sometimes land, particularly with these trawlers, they land their catch in Senegal, not even in the Gambia, to create employment for women, even men. So this is the potential of this sector, but it is a mine. It's a minefield, so to speak. This is our diamond, it's our oil, as at now, but we are not taking advantage of it. The President did not make many mention of it, and I believe this should be a priority. Honorable Speaker, I think I am coming to the end of my intervention. I want to talk about agriculture. This is also a potential for this country to sustain itself. We must definitely start ensuring that government takes the lead by supporting communities in agriculture, by helping them acquire necessary tools, inputs, farm inputs, seeds, and also the market environment to be able to sell their produce, and even to diversify. We are being told, or statistics have shown that over $4 billion, $4,000 million is spent on rice, importation of rice. Even quarter of this amount, if it had been invested in rice cultivation in this country, the rice importation would have been history. Of course, we can allow people for choice, but the varieties that we would have been offering would be such that no person who wants to preserve his or her health would be consuming imported rice. Sometimes this rice, if you know, they have been produced 10 years ago, 5 years ago, they were in stores. But you'll be having freshly grown, freshly harvested, newly harvested rice with all the nutrients, all the benefits. Quarter of this amount invested in agriculture. And the investment, I don't mean investment as, because the Minister of Fisheries, when I asked him about the trawlers, he said, or now he changed, he said that they will be looking into it. But the initial position was that, no, let's leave outsiders to come, the private sector to come, encourage the Gambians in diaspora to come. Some are saying foreign direct investment, outsiders to come. But government really should be taking the lead by helping communities. It's the communities, they're the farmers. We always talk about farmers being the majority of the employed in this country, the majority of the population. How do we help them? Government should take the lead. Create banks that will enable them to have access, interest-free loans. I'm saying all this because, as I said earlier on, that for us, for me, I don't want to do anything to ensure that the government of the day fails, because it is entrusted resources. How should it utilize those resources to benefit the population? How should it ensure that those resources are not mismanaged or diverted? That is my concern. So all these solutions are being made because I want to see that the people's interests are served, in the population's interest is served. We talk about tourism and culture. Tourism and culture, we've seen how the COVID-19 has devastated this sector. Every player in this sector is affected. And this has been an employer in this country. You have informal operators. They constitute the majority even. If you go to tourist markets, no activity. The tourist taxi drivers, no activity. The small hotels, restaurants, bars, little activity. So I think there is need for serious review of this sector to see what alternatives can be evolved to ensure that the sector is revived. That's important to be done. On defense, as I said, the security sector reform should really, as I said earlier, is what should apply to ensure that our men and women in uniform are supported to develop capacities other than their core mandate, and for them to be operating as a service, not as a force, because that insinuates the use of force, coercion, and that shouldn't be the case. The services that they render, defending the territorial integrity of this country as their core mandate. defending the territorial integrity of this country. And Gambia should be promoting foreign service, foreign policy that should make us friends to everybody. Of course, sometimes you live in a world that is very interesting. You must be on the guard. But nature, the peaceful coexistence should really be promoted. Gambia cannot afford to be at war by a rhetorical or physical with its neighbors. Our priority as a government, our priority as a National Assembly, our priority as a nation is how to address the challenges being faced by the population. Poverty, ignorance, and injustice. On transport, today I had to pay $50 to come to work. The unions are on strike. Although late in the night, I got information that they have called off the strike, but it did not resonate on the ground. Today at Westfield, in fact, you do not see even any vehicle. So, and that's a real challenge. The government should really look into public transport, urban public transport. By mini buses. I don't want to be naming countries, but you can see those who travel. I know everybody here in this house travels outside of the Gambia. You can see, if you go to other countries, you see how the urban transport service goes. There is transport service for every level, depending on your post or depending on where you're going. But we must introduce urban service in addition to what we have now. Not to push them out, because they too are doing that to survive. And I think it's good for government to really talk with them and then identify their challenges. They have numerous challenges. They have been engaging me. Car park, fuel, bad roads, inaccessible roads, few roads. And these are challenges that government should really look into and address. Because at the end of the day, look at it. Today, it's people, I know so many people cannot afford $50. I have to do it because I have a duty to perform, very important duty. But I seldom pay $50. I do hire taxis, they call it town trip though. But from Banjul, because I don't want to be setting a bad precedent. There are so many people who can afford even the $25 that I pay to come to work. Much more $50. So today I know some people will not go to work. Yeah. Yeah. So it's something that government should really look into. Talk to the unions. I know they have started engaging. As I said, they had got information that they were able to call it off. I don't know how true that is, but it did not manifest. It did not demonstrate. It did not resonate, because there were no cars at Westfield, the busiest point in this country, Westfield, in terms of movement, in terms of vehicular movement. Westfield is the busiest. Today there was no public transport. The bars that go to Bagwe, the vehicles that come to Banjul, to go to Tabokoto, Birkama, you see very few. And then there are also others who are taking advantage of it. So there is need to expedite the process, Honorable Vice President. Talk to them and then see how this can be addressed. But road network is a challenge, car parks are challenges. Councils can also come in, they can buy properties within their localities to transform into car parks. It's investment. So government can talk to council, council can invest. Can even loan them to buy places to transform into car parks. And then have secondary roads. The road network in urban Gambia is really a nightmare. People take 2 hours to go to come to work, more than 2 hours to go back home after a long, exhaustive day from work, from school, from business. So it's a real challenge. I know it because I live it, you know. Justice, the transformative justice process. We have the TRRC, The Constitution was part of it. It was told. And I would not say, if there's any blame, it's this chamber for the Constitution. That's my position. The TRRC, we don't know how, they are yet to submit their report, so we don't know what it entails. But this country needs to move on. We need to establish the truth. We need reconciliation in order to move on as a country. We shouldn't be living in the past. The past is important only if it serves as a lesson. The never again, that's what it means. The past serving as a lesson. Let us not repeat it. The president said it here. He said at the conclusion of his, as Gambians, I quote, and it's on page 54, number 13. As Gambians, we must be sensitive to the pain, sorrows, and desires of those around us and work towards making life easy and comfortable for every one of us. This is the mantra. This is my mantra. This is my political conviction. Those that I share political beliefs, this is it. We want to treat ourselves as we treat others. We should treat ourselves as we should treat others as we treat ourselves. So that's the reason why I underline this. This should be our mantra. This should be the spirit. We are out to serve, to end suffering, to end poverty, to end oppression in this country. Honorable Speaker, let me just conclude with this statement that we are at a critical stage. A critical stage where if we are not responsible enough, we are going to compound the challenges that we are contending with now as a country. And I'm exhorting on my colleagues, National Assembly members. We can go out in the fields. We can go out in the field to ask for the mandate of the population. It's our right. Some of us belong to political parties, or most of us. Yes, Honorable. Or all of us, Honorable, yes. But they are, you know, they are independent. Okay, that's why I say, I just want to, Honorable, political parties, and we are presenting candidates and want the population to consider them. But let us do it in such a manner that we don't divide the people that we seek to serve. Let us convince them with our programs that we have each and every, that we have the best program. Whoever is good before them, tell them that we have the best program to end poverty in this country, to end ignorance in this country, to end injustice in this country, and then leave them to decide. Whatever they decide is their responsibility. But let us not coerce them, let us not intimidate them, let us not divide them, let us not induce them. And this is moral. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I know this is a very important debate and everybody would like to take part in it, but we also have to manage our time so that everybody will have an opportunity to contribute. And we have 2 days and we adjourn at 6 o'clock. 35 minutes, 45 minutes per member will take us maybe 3-4 days to complete this. So let us try to be concise and to the point. Thank you very much. Honorable member, may I call on nominated member, Seka. Please, can somebody assist her? Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma, for giving me the floor. I would like to applaud the President for doing his constitutional mandate. Just as I always say, and then first of all, I would like to congratulate him for ascending to our bill that we have been following since time immemorial. This is a legacy. And ascending to it does not mean that just ascend to it and then we forget about it. We want this bill to be different because we are ready to go out to sensitize the people what this act entails. We would like now our persons with disability to live more dignity life in this country. I think that is what we are looking for. So I would like to thank him for that. And then the other thing is preaching peace. You see, we all need peace, especially those people that we are telling that they are vulnerable. But in particular, persons with disability, women, children. We need peace in this country. I just don't know the essence of bringing otherwise. Let us be responsible political parties. Responsible in the sense that we make sure that we are wrestlers. We go in the field and wrestle. Whoever wins will take it. But the other way, not to preach peace, not to do what, for me, in this National Assembly, whoever comes with anything that you know that concerns the country, I am ready to support. Whether you belong to any party or whether we are different. But for me, what I need is the progress of this country. We need this country to prosper. As people are saying, this is a very small country, but it's a big country. A big country in the sense that we call this country the smiling coast of West Africa or the smiling coast of Africa. So that being the case, preaching for peace by all political parties, by all Gambians and non-Gambians in this country, and even the diaspora. That is what we need. Because whatever happens, persons with disabilities cannot run away, especially those of us who cannot see where we are going to. Maybe some people, they have their wheelchairs. Some of them cannot hear, but they can see. But for us, we are more unfortunate. So please, we are calling for peace. Peace first, before anything. Because if you don't have peace, even if we have the treasury that we need, we will not enjoy it. What I am looking for now is peace and health. Peace and health. Secondly, I want to talk about health. It's true, the president talked about the challenges that we had, but unfortunately, he just elaborated on this COVID-19. It's true, the COVID-19, nobody will say that it did not bring any challenges. But there are others that had challenges. Others like maternal and mortal rate. It's coming back. It's coming back. Recently, I just took someone to the hospital, but before she delivered, she passed away. And the child delivered just for few minutes. That child also passed away. So the maternal mortality rate is here. The malaria, pneumonia, and others, they are all here. It's true, we have the COVID, but let us not depend entirely, wholly and solely on COVID, because there are other challenges. When it comes to agriculture, there are challenges. When it comes to health, there are challenges. I would have loved to hear. I am happy to hear his achievements, the achievements that the government made in all those. But in all those, there are challenges. I would have loved to hear when he say we achieved this, but our challenges are this. Because this country belongs to us. If you talk about achievement, talk about challenges as well. Let's talk about challenges. If you do not know the challenges, we will not be able to overcome what is happening. I think we are not ghosts or we are not angels to make sure that we don't have challenges. Let us not hide our challenges. We are human beings. And this country, we all know that to head a country is not easy. Obviously, there must be challenges. I had this time, I heard him talking about challenges. I was so happy when he was mentioning challenges. And let him continue mentioning challenges. Because if you don't mention challenges, not mentioning challenges does not mean that he will not win elections. He may win, but despite that, he talked to us about the challenges that we have, so that we all come together and solve our problems. The political parties should be responsible political parties. Everybody, all of us should be. In National Assembly members, we also should be responsible because this country belongs to us. God forbid, if there is a problem, whose wife will go to the market? The women will not be able to go to the market, and then our husbands will not be able to come to this National Assembly to stand and debate. So, for me, Madam Speaker, this is a general thing that I had from the President's State the Nation's address, and I thank him for that. Let us talk. Let us be elaborating more on challenges. It's true. It's good to talk about achievements, and we all know that achievements occur, but challenges also, because every time there are always challenges. And challenges are what we can talk about and make sure that we see development. But if we just keep away our challenges and talk about achievements, it's true, maybe sometimes, and sometimes you may not be able to do much. And we want our people to do much. And I will talk about this constitution. He talked about the constitution, but he did not elaborate more. Let him tell us what he is ready to do as far as this constitution is concerned. Because if we have this constitution, as my colleagues say, it will be a good legacy. And do you know what I like? I want us to leave a very, very good legacy. Because history is here. History stretches its long arms, and we all know that whatever happens, we should do it correctly and correctly. So I thank the Vice President, my sister, for being with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Nyani. Yes, Nyani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me the floor. First of all, I also join my colleagues about the wonderful deliberation that the head of state has given. Here, I went through the statement, but I think I can just elaborate few on the concerned issues which I have. That is, first of all, on the education sector. The Honorable His Excellency, the head of state, has said a lot on education, and they have built so many schools. But here my concern, the schools, the buildings are okay, but I think what they should also consider about is the skill centers. You can find out that there are a lot of schools which they have constructed, and all those schools, maybe we assume all those students will not have a job to have a better job in the office. But at least the government should have created some skill centers, so many skill centers. And even in these schools, the number of schools they have constructed, we will not see any metal work or woodwork classes in those schools. So I don't know what the government is thinking about skills job. And I think that also is very lucrative, so that we can able to have our young students who can able to do some skill on the side of construction. In those days, you can see all the other schools, like junior secondary schools, senior secondary schools, you'll find those skills classes in the schools. But nowadays, there are so many buildings which they have constructed. We can see it in the statement, but very few skills center, which I have already seen. I think that is only in Demban, which they are planning to open maybe in a few months' time. So I think government should consider some structures so that we can able to have skill centers also. I have seen on the side of the Women Enterprise Fund, some money has been disbursed, and there was a lot of money that had been disbursed to almost about 103 women, and plans are already on to issue another $7 million. So, but this, I have registered so many CAFOs in my constituency, but I cannot see any of those members who have already benefited from this fund. Though maybe they are unfortunate or they are not qualified, but if they can give us the list of those who have already been issued on, from this fund, we want to know where, because according to the statement, they said throughout the country. So if at all we can able to get the list of the money they have already disbursed to these couples. On the side of agriculture, also, a lot have been said on the statement. But I always said, as far as agriculture is concerned, here we are suffering. In my area, you can have at least mechanized machines which you can able to use on the farm. Even myself, which I have just harvested and stressed, I use part with the combine, but the other part, the machines we are very limited. I have to use a barrel to stress those rice. So I think it would be very better for them to issue a lot of equipment. Our problem as far as agriculture is concerned and rice production is concerned, if we didn't address the hippos, you have no harvest. So I think that also should be very considered. The wild animals such as hippos, they are really a harbor to farmers in our area, like Sierra, South and North. I think all of my colleagues can bear witness on those issues. Hippos is a pest to us. So I think, other than that, as far as health issue is concerned, here our concern, I always said it, structures are there. If there is no medicine, the structures are useless. So I think we have to have enough drugs at the health centers than building structures without any drugs inside it. So other than that, Madam Speaker, I thank you. I take my seat.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have two lists, actually, one on this side and one on that side. I try to keep the balance, but unfortunately, those ones on my list on this side are not here, so I have to go to Honorable Member for Tumana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. And I have to thank the Vice President, who is here with us today, to answer to some of the issues that we will raise as honorable members. And this is another important activity that we do as a parliament, which we ask questions in regards to the performance of the government in the last legislative year. And we also want them to inform us about the successes registered in the last year, not only about the successes or the achievements, but again the challenges, because wherever there is a success, there must be some challenges or bottlenecks. So they will also inform us about the challenges that they face as a government, in which we try, in as much as we can, as the people's representatives, that's the members of parliament, to support them in that cause. Because we are partners in development. The National Assembly, the executive, and the judiciary work hand in glove to make sure that we impact on the life and the livelihood of the people that we are serving. So this is all about knowing the success stories or the achievements, the challenges, are not only limited to that, but the way forward as a country. Because for far too long, this country has been crying or has been suffering. So we as members of parliament, coming from different walks of lives and coming from different backgrounds, coming from different regions, we try to impact on the life and the livelihood of the people that we represent. So for her to sit here today in this August garden, to listen to us, and we make our submissions. Thank you, Madam Vice President. I honestly speaking wanted to go through the entire speech, but because of time constraint, I will only limit myself to some of the areas that are of concern. Yeah, no need to thank. Honorable Speaker, I have two lists. I personally would start with Minister of Basic and Secondary Education. According to the speech of the President, with your permission, ma'am, through the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, my government is partnering positively with the World Bank, MRC Holland, and other philanthropists to improve access to quality education. Honestly speaking, this is very good. Access to education is not a privilege, it's not a favor, but it's a right. And in doing so, this is something we really have to thank the government for doing that. Where you have point 4, through such partnerships, 2,173 new classrooms has been completed within the 4 years, and they plan to complete 134 more by end of 2021. Honorable Speaker, with your permission, I want the Vice President, even if it is not today, but if they can provide us with the list of all the schools that has already been completed and the one that they intended to build before the end of December 2021. And we want to use this opportunity to thank MRC Holland Foundation, World Bank, and other philanthropists, including the government, for the support that they are rendering in terms of education. Honorable Speaker, where you have the point 6, since teachers' motivation and welfare contributes to better performance, 836 rooms for teachers' accommodation has been built countrywide. Hopefully, the number will increase to 1,000, noting that 200 are due for completion by end of December 2021. Yes, most of the teachers in this country are really suffering in terms of teachers' accommodation, especially the region that I'm from, the Upper River region. Not all the communities, but some communities are hostile to teachers because they don't really know the role and the value of teachers in our socio-economic development of this country. I could have not been here today to represent the people of Tumana constituency if I was not being sent to school and teach by a teacher. So teachers' accommodation is very key. Before you can deliver what you have, the environment must be conducive first. So for teachers to deliver up to expectations, it's very hard and it's very sad if you reach out to teachers in where they are living. Honestly speaking, Speaker, you feel goosebumps because the condition is so horrible. So this is the right move in the right direction, and not forgetting, I want the ministry to also concentrate in my constituency as well. There are communities in my constituency that are really suffering. So we want them to do this. But again, the one that they already built, we want to have that list, and the one that they intend to build, we also want to have the list, so that we will try to do the check and balances on them to know whether the value of money has been spent in those projects. Honorable Speaker. The other area that I wanted to shed light on is the higher education, research, science, and technology. From the name itself, higher education, research, science and technology. For this country to develop, we have to concentrate on our higher education sector, especially the universities and other tertiary institutions in this country, Honorable Speaker. For far too long, the University of the Gambia, they are really suffering, especially in the area of research. If we want to develop this country, be it agriculture, be it environment, be it whatsoever, we have to heavily spend on our technology and research. So if we want to do that, we really have to heavily spend on the University of the Gambia, so that we can, university can produce well-talented students that will work in different walks of life to develop this country within the blink of an eye. Interior, Honorable Speaker, in the speech, it has been said, fittingly also, the code of conduct for the police has been developed and adopted for the anti-crime unit. Furthermore, an arrest and detention procedure manual is in use after its successful development in collaboration with Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance. In the area of interior, this is one of the most important sectors, anti-crime, because we all know the number of crime in this country, and it's every day increasing. It's as a result of so many reasons. But at least, if these people have a code of conduct, that will at least serve as a guide. Because in trying to do your work as expected, you should not also try to violate someone's human right. After knowing your code of conduct, that will at least guide you to not to jump on someone and take his human rights or her human right. Honorable Speaker, under the interior too, if my memory serves me well, it was said in this parliament by the President that he is looking into the area of prisons. Our prisons are congested. The crime rate is increasing. In fact, crime is inevitable. Every day, crime is increasing in this country. Mile 2 is in a horrible condition. He said he has a plan to totally look into Mile 2 and to build a new prison system. So I was really thinking that would have been captured in this in his address, because his term is just 2 or 3 months to go. This was one of the promises that was made to the people. So I was really thinking that, yes, we're only 2 or 3 months to go. If there is any plan, even though the speech cannot capture everything, but can the Vice President shed light on that? Lands, regional government, and religious affairs. 3, this aside, the 2018-2021 Local Climate Adaptive Living Project, funded by the UNDP, is in progress to reduce poverty through green and resilience climate-smart relative interventions. Yes, this is something that I really so interested in, and I want to know details about this project. And again, we want to seize this opportunity to thank UNDP for their continuous effort in trying to help the Gambians in all sectors. Because I could vividly remember, I am part of the committee on regional government land ombudsman and IEC when we went around on our first tour, when we came to this parliament. Some of the councils are even without a strategic plan. It is through the efforts of UNDP they were able to develop a 4 or 5 year strategic plan that will at least help the institution to guide them on their day-to-day activities of the councils. So this is a right move in the right direction. So like I said, I want to know more about this. And again, we want to thank the central government, because in his speech, he said 7, the impact of the COVID was so severe on the regional council that central government had to intervene by providing a salary package for them. This is a right move in the right direction because councils are badly affected with the pandemic and they are still suffering. But again, there is something that is left aside that are still not paid or that are still not yet been paid, which by law it should be paid. The 25% of the development fund of councils should be paid to councils to support them to do their projects and other activities of the councils. If this can be paid, why not that? And again, I want to thank the councils for the effort that they are doing for this country. Honestly speaking, 60% of the development budget, or council should deliver to the people. Council should deliver to the people in a form of service. Honestly, with the little amount that they have, they are really delivering to the people, as expected. Because if we can all remember, these are institutions in a country whose source of revenue has been taken from them by the central government. Almost, if not all, but almost all their sources of revenue has been taken from them. But with the little that they have, they are still delivering to the people. Because in my own constituency, in my own region, the area council is really delivering to the people. And they are really impacting on the life and the livelihood of the people. And the same thing applies to Banjul City Council. We are all living witness to that. The same thing applies to Kanifing Municipal Council, all the councils in the country. So with the little resources that they have, they are honestly doing their uttermost best to see that, you know, the people that they are serving, they serve them as expected. Thank you, all the area councils across the land and breadth of the country. Honorable Speaker, we are in a problem, and the problem we cannot just give a deaf ear to the problem or deaf eye to the problem. The problem has to do with the proper town planning in this country. Today, Basse as a region, URR as a region, Basse as a town, as the hope of Upper River region, we are in a big problem. If you have a vehicle and you want to fly through the Basse market, going towards Kabakama, is always a problem. It's always a nightmare. Our population is increasing. The road size remains. The number of vehicles is increasing. The road size remains. Let's talk about fire. Let's talk about wind, human activities. So I think this is the right time for physical planning to come up with a roadmap and see how best they will look into proper town planning in this country. Because if that is not being done, right now we're facing the problem. Come in the next 10, 20 years, this country will be a living hell for every one of us. So it's high time the physical planning under the Ministry of Lands to look into this matter. Honorable Speaker, fisheries, water resources, and National Assembly matters. The President talked about to achieve my administration remains committed to providing access to safe drinking water and releasing timely and accurate weather and climate information. That's one. Two, to achieve this through the support of the African Development Bank, the Department of Water Resources will construct and install 144 solar pipe water supply system to provide safe and quality drinking water for additional 400,000 rural residents. The rural residents in this country, access to potable, clean drinking water is always a nightmare. Honestly speaking, when we speak, we expect the executive to listen. And when they're listening, we want them to act. I have been saying this in this parliament. I will not even mind for the executive to come up with a supplementary appropriation bill of $2 billion for us to approve in this parliament, to make sure that we provide water, a clean drinking water for everybody in this country. Because it's not a privilege. This is a right that we are demanding. When I said we, I mean the representative on behalf of our various constituencies. You cannot expect a woman who is pregnant, heavily pregnant, carrying big load on their head in search of water. Every night, 2 a.m., I have to go and search for water for my next day uses. For me, in my own house, this is the 8th month, I still don't have a droplet of water coming from the taps. When we can buy expensive vehicles, when we put more money into fuels and lubricants, but the life of the people of this country is not even been looked at. When you talk about NAWEC is a body that's supposed to pay a dividend to the government. But instead, the resources of the state, taxpayers' money, being used as a subvention to NAWEC to bail them in, year out, year in and out. But still, the service that they're supposed to deliver to the people cannot be delivered. And we're still spending money on them. This is something that we really have to look at. The people of the up countries are really suffering. And when I mean the people in the up countries are suffering, I'm not only restricting to that, but even those in the urban areas. We all know. We are all coming from different localities. We know what has transpired there. The reason why every Johnson or every corner people are now digging boreholes is as a result of the services that's supposed to be delivered to them. It's not coming. I will not even mind drinking something that's poisonous to me than spending the whole day without seeing water. Water is a right. This is one of the basic human rights from Section 17 to Section 31 of the Constitution. If you go through it, it's all talking about rights. This is something that we have to prioritize as a government. Honorable Speaker. Again, it says, with help from Japanese government, 20 another solar pumped water supply system will be constructed and installed in 2021 to serve 80,000 persons in rural communities. How soon is this going to be? Because this is something that has been said here since from 2017 to date. If we are to act, we have to act. We cannot just be saying this on this leaflet and we are not doing anything about it. These people cannot still wait for that. So let's try and make everything humanly possible to make sure that they know this is served to the people. How soon, Honorable Vice President? On legislative matters, government will introduce 2 bills to this August Assembly for Comprehensive Water Act and to establish a new National Water Resources Management Authority. Honestly speaking, if they can bring this in our next sessions, it will be approved, if possible. This is something that's very important. If water is important, the bill too is important. We have these laws to guide. Trade, industry, regional integration. Or let me skip that and come to health. Honorable Speaker, I have compared and contrasted the speech of last year and this year, just to try to comprehend. This year's speech should have been a reflection of last year's speech. We started this last year. It's ongoing or is completed. This is a challenge we have, and this is how we want you to support. Health is a problem in this country. Today, health is a problem.
Just remember, honorable member, that we are debating 2021. Just bear that in mind.
I am trying to compare and to contrast 2020 to 2021. I think I'm in line. So, Honorable Speaker, health. The issue of health is still lingering in the hearts, mind, and soul of the people of this country. Honorable Speaker, health, access to health is still not a privilege, it's a right. If you listen to my speeches in this parliament, most of the times I talk about things that are of fundamental human rights of the people that I represent most of the time. Because this is something that we cannot ignore. No, we cannot. There are people dying in my constituency. I've been saying this here, the only constituency since from independence to date, from colonial days, independence up to date, the only constituency without a health center with a population of 37 to 40,000 inhabitants. Let me tell you this. You know the reason why I've been saying this here. I lost my mom when I was 3, and as a result of maternal death. This issue is still in Tumana constituency. Woman is one of the most dignified beings that God has created. We cannot just ignore the plight of the people of my constituents. So we have to, Honorable Minister, or Honorable Vice President, I said this here. The last time I said it, but you know when I speak, some will not understand. And I am not speaking in parables. I speak in the basic English language. I don't insult. But the way I see it, that's the way I say it. I wish I should have said this in my mother's tongue, but the law is not allowing me to do so. But when I speak, you listen. And when you listen, you digest. Honorable Vice President, when she was the Minister of Health, I visited her in her office on several occasions about the health of the people of Tumana constituency. The first minister, and even the current one, I wrote letters. But up to date, please, I want you to tell me whether if there is any plan for the people of Tumana constituency, whether they are going to have a health center or not. Because this is a constitutional right that we are demanding from you people. And I'm not begging, and I will never beg for it. It is the plight of my people, and I have to convey it into this National Assembly. By right, I don't have the law, or I don't have the mandate to build a hospital for the people of Tumana constituency, to construct them the road. But I have to convey their messages into this parliament. We have the national cake here, and the national cake should be equitably distributed all over this country. So the plight of my people have to be looked at. On maternal death, maternal and child death services, last year he said his government is committed to the reduction of under 5 and maternal mortality. So I was really thinking that this one would have captured that one to tell us how far has his government gone in trying to reduce child death and maternal death. It's an increased. Every day, women are dying in our hospitals. These are our fellow sisters, our mothers, our aunts. Pregnancy is very difficult. From the level of fetus, or from the first day that you got pregnant up to the last day you deliver, nothing awaits but death. It's painful. I'm a victim. And I know many of us here are victims. So I will continue advocating for this until I see that the people of Tumana constituency have a health center. And it's not something that we're begging for. It's our constitutional right. We are demanding for it. Honorable Speaker. So if you don't have the data or the statistical data, we want to know what the government has been doing in trying to fight the maternal and child death. Again, polio has been eradicated in this country when I was a child. But today, I heard, I don't know whether if it is true or not, we've heard about a case of polio in this country. I don't know whether 1 or 2 cases of polio in this country. So that could have been captured in this to tell us the giant steps the Minister of Health is taking. I mean the government in trying to fight that. Because we are very poor as a nation. We only depend on donors. So we should prepare ourselves, especially when we heard about 3 cases of polio in this country. And not only polio, HIV today is rampant in Gambia. We don't even care about it. Last year's budget, I said this. We cannot leave everything in the hands of the First Lady's Foundation. She is doing very good. But we cannot leave everything in her hand. We have to pump in our own taxpayers' money to fund for some of these things. We have to fight HIV and AIDS in this country. It's an increase there. If I am not a victim, you could be a victim. So this is something that we have to look at. So, Honorable Vice President, I want you to look into that. You correct me if I am wrong. Last year we were told in this speech that the Minister of Agriculture is trying to come up with Plant Health Protection Bill. But as a member of the Committee of Agriculture, I don't see if I have laid my eye on this. But I want to know whether if this is something that is ongoing, it has not yet reached the level of National Assembly, because I'm not aware. So we want to know, because the issue of plant too is as important as humans. We heavily depend on these plants for our survival, for the survival of our animals. So we want to know. Honorable Speaker, the same thing applies to animal health. Today, we are in our own graves, sorry to say. Madam Vice President, Gambia is without a standard food testing lab. We are consuming everything. Everything that's coming from the east, the west, Africa, everywhere. We are just consuming. And this is why the way our citizens are dying is abnormal. This is something that we have to take taxpayers' money and heavily spend on it. It's for, the amount of money we spend on the prevention, even if it is high, it's just for 1 year. But my life is important. Your life is important. Our lives is as equally important. This country is just consuming. If I could vividly remember, a National Assembly member who told me that a friend of his from one of the Asian countries, told him that we are consuming decolorized palm oil. You know the content in palm oil. Palm oil is very good, but when we want to consume it, and for families that are huge, they want to depend on oil, because these other ones, there are a lot of ingredients that you need to put in it for you to put for you to put food on a table for the family to survive. The type of oil that we are consuming, we don't know. The type of rice we are consuming, we don't know. The meat, we don't know. So why can't we use taxpayers' money to prevent everybody from getting sick and dying like flies? Everybody is dying. Just yesterday, I heard about three people that died in different localities. This is abnormal. People are dying like flies. Let's look into this matter. Honorable Speaker, last year, we were informed, because If you can all vividly remember, I am one of those who are still advocating for reviving the Gambia Cotton Production Company in this country. We as a committee, we went to Uganda, in Kampala. We've seen how those people are, how they are boasting this sector, agriculture sector, in the area of cotton production. Now they even, in fact, not only producing the raw and exporting it outside the country, which would earn them some little income or revenue, but they are now adding value to it. And Upper River region is well known for its cotton production. We have the potential, we can do it. We have the population, the human population. We have the land, the vast land, the arable land. We have the fresh water. We can do it, both day and night. Be it in the rainy season or in the dry season, we can do it. Let's think about the employment that this will create for the people of Upper River region. Let's think about the revenue that government will earn from this. We always talk about youth unemployment, which stands at 41.5%. When Corona came, that was another thing. So we could have at least used this as an opportunity to boost our agriculture sector. When I still listen to people over the radios, over the TVs, yes, we have to diversify from agriculture to other sectors of the economy. What are you spending in agriculture? You only leave your agriculture in the hands of the donors. You are not doing anything in the area of agriculture. 1.7% of the entire budget from the Gambia local fund. How can that develop your agriculture? It cannot. Honestly speaking, this is a sector that we have to look at. The factory is lying there. The value of the machines are every day depreciating. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, let's look into that. So I was expecting that, this could have been said in this year's speech. And again, I want to say this. I am against it, and I'm against it in totality. That Gambia should not be looking for market in Senegal when it comes to cotton production. The way Senegal is linking to the international world, we can do the same thing. We have the potential. This is why we have the ministries, we have the agencies, we have the department under the purview of the ministries. Like what happened with that of groundnut. The only mineral resources we have in this country is groundnut. But we are losing it to Senegal. We are creating more job employment in Senegal than the Gambia. Because Senegalese are used by the Chinese to come and buy our groundnuts and process them in Senegal. They are now expanding their companies. They are creating more employment for the youths and women. And the only thing we have in return is the small token, which is bad. We have the potential. We've been engaging the ministry to go and look the way and the manner Senegal did, so that we can also have that, source of revenue for the farmers. We should not just heavily depend on Senegal for everything. For cotton production, and I will tell you one of the reasons why there was a problem in that Gambia cotton production from history is because of the management issues. They want to leave everything in the hands of Senegalese, and the Gambian says no. So this is one of the reasons why they have a problem. Last, on agriculture. Honorable Speaker, we've approved $18 million project called the Small Ruminant Project in this House. And it's a 6-year project where the direct beneficiaries to women in terms of percentage is 80%. And to youth farmers is 20%. And also is also targeting.
Honorable, I just want to be guided.
Yes.
Are you still on the agriculture?
Yes. It's on agriculture. That's the last thing on agriculture.
Specifically?
Yes.
Am I correct to say on the 36? I'm on page 36?
Page 36.
We need to relate.
Yeah.
Let's look at the scope of the debate on the specific statement.
Yeah. You know, the reason why you are not getting it is, this is something that has been omitted from the speech. And I collected somewhere, tried to link it with the speech. It's not captured in the speech. So this is something that I was expecting to hear it from the president, saying it in the speech. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm not disputing that, but the procedure is that we are debating the speech.
Yeah.
So probably, if it is not in the speech and you were expecting it, I mean, whose fault? You can probably reserve that then for, what do you call the other debate? Adjournment debate. But the scope, in fact, that was why I referred in my statement to this. Let us try to not restrict, but our debate should be centered around the statement delivered. You can scrutinize it. No, please. You can scrutinize the statement, but don't bring in new elements that are not, am I right? That are not in the statement. For adjournment debate, of course, we are at liberty. You can say anything.
Side talks.
Honorable,
yes.
If you recall, I referred and I quoted in extenso, standing order clause 30, clause 1.
I agree.
That debate upon any motion or amendment to a motion or upon any bill, part of a bill or amendment to a bill shall be relevant thereto. And I did indicate relevant thereto, emphasized, and that the emphasis is mine. Except in the case of a motion for debate on the adjournment of the assembly, which you are at liberty to touch on anything. So let's just be guided and follow the proper procedure. The standing orders are the standing orders of the National Assembly.
Thank you very much, Honorable
Yes, so
Speaker.
you can...
I think I'm on right footage. And I will not do justice to the people of this country if they don't know what is really happening with these $18 million. Honestly speaking, the adjournment debate is at the end of this debate. I don't know whether if I will live towards that day. So this is the day I have. I want to spend it on this day. I want to say it on this day. Honorable Speaker,
I'm not disputing that you don't have a day. This is not your day. It is not your day. But then, this is what we are debating. So if there is nothing in here and you want to bring in a new element, that's my worry.
Yeah, that's
just a second. Let us not emphasize or insist on a right when actually our procedures, which we have all adopted, don't provide for them. Just a second. That's my point, that you are entitled to do your research, which you have done, and you have observed that something that you were expecting is not in there. That's your expectation. But if it is not there, we go by our standing orders. And what do the standing orders say? The debate has to be within the scope of the address so delivered. So as I said, I think the proper thing to do is to bring it up during the course of the adjournment. I mean, my role as presiding officer is just to guide. I don't dictate what people say, but if I also observe that what is being done is outside the procedures laid down, specifically our standing orders, it is my responsibility to bring it to the attention of honorable members. Thank you. You can proceed, but then please just be guided by what I have said.
Yes, like I said, Honorable Speaker, it's a 6-year project and it's $18 million. It's not captured in the speech. And this is something that we really want to know, Madam Vice President.
I have made my statement, and we cannot be arguing. You insist that you have to bring it up, and I say that it cannot be brought up now. Then we won't make any headway. Let us take the decision of the chair in terms of how we proceed, and then we make some progress. You have ample opportunity and time to refer to that and any other issue that you may wish to bring up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I rest my case.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Fonyi Brevet.
Honourable Speaker, I want to observe something.
Brevet, Honourable Member for...
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I would like to begin by seizing this opportunity to thank the President for fulfilling his constitutional mandate. And in my opinion, he did very well. Honourable Speaker, the President's speech address highlighted various government ministries, department agencies, achievements, concerns, and plans. The President also has made mention the issue of COVID-19, which had a devastating effect on our economy. What lessons are learned out of that is that the need to prioritize our development agenda. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to belabor more on certain issues, but there are certain areas which I wanted to make mention of, but have previously been dealt with adequately with members who spoke first, particularly the issue of the need for the government to support the LGAs. This is very, in terms of giving them grants and supporting them is key, because we know the role of the LGAs in our local development. Madam Speaker, I will make it short. I want to refer this August Assembly to page 11 on the Ministry of Higher Education, just to express my gratitude to the government, and of course, a good number of my colleagues who supported that particular ministry, the Ministry of Higher Education, in its desire to complete the construction and operationalization of Ndemban Multipurpose Skills Center. That's intended to empower our young people in terms of giving them specific skills so that they can also play their rightful position in national development. I want to thank the government very much. This project, which is highly anticipated to be completed and operationalized this academic year. So, Madam Vice President, please extend my warmest wishes to the President and, of course, the Minister of Higher Education and his technicians for making everything humanly possible to make sure that institution is complete and ready for use by the young people of this country. So, the government, thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I don't want to flout the rules of the standing orders, but the Honourable Member for Tumano was insisting, but I would also have loved to see the issue of road accidents, which is taking a lot of lives. That is also equally important, just like COVID-19. Just want to know, Madam Vice President, what concrete steps the government is taking to ensure these road accidents are minimized. The Minister of Interior have highlighted the various achievements they register in terms of the control and seizure of illicit drugs. That's a wonderful endeavor. But road accident, even yesterday, my pickup was turned into an ambulance. But as I was coming from Fonyi, there was a serious accident in Sotokoi, and my car was full with injured children and women. It was very sympathetic. So I don't mean to disobey and go against our standing order, but I think this issue is very, very important, because road accidents, it could be me, it could be anybody at any time. So on that note, Madam Speaker, excuse me for a little bit flouting our rules, but I feel it's something is very, very important and it's very pressing. The more we do less about it, the more innocent lives are taken, so there's need for something to be done. But overall, Madam Speaker, this is what I want to contribute, and I thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Woolly East. Woolly East, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this debate on the President's address to the nation. Honorable Speaker, if we go to finance on page 5 of this speech, the President mentioned that tax collection was 13.4, that is including non-tax. But if you actually look at tax alone, it's very small, according to him. But he described this as an incredible performance. If we have tax, total tax, which is collected, 13.4, but out of the 13.4, 11.8 billion is non-tax. I don't consider that as incredible. That is not an incredible performance, in my view. But this also means that the policy that is in place, which is relied on, that is the private sector, as the engine of growth, is non-existent. Because the private sector is what should give us all these taxes. So if the tax collection is low, is going down, it means that the private sector is not performing. And in that same page on finance, Honorable Speaker, the President talks about debt deferral of 5 years for the principal payment, which is 5 years. Don't disturb me, 5 years. And what is estimated to yield from that is $4.8 billion. And if I hear him well, he said this will be invested in the economy. But the question is, the economy is wide. Where in the economy? Because if you take all this debt and put it into just service, 5 years is waiting, you are going to pay back. And how are you going to pay that if you put it just into service? So it is important for the Vice President to help us which area of the economy is this 4.8 billion going to be invested from 2020 to 2024. That will be very useful, Honorable Speaker. Also, that we know that always when you have these deferrals, you will eventually, the interest will have to accrue. They don't do these things for nothing. And while he's talking about the G20 service suspension initiative, debt service suspension, which is seeking relief for 287 million for 2020. The question is, the IMF and World Bank do not do these things for free. They always put conditions. But the President did not mention any of the conditions. What conditions did the government take to be able to receive this debt relief through the DSSI? Because, Honorable Speaker, we all know that through DSSI, the IMF always put conditions. And some of the conditions are not very palatable. So it would be important for us to know what are some of those conditions that the Gambia has taken. Sometimes it is, you have to give them certain information regarding your financial situation. You have to give them information where you are going to take the money, etc., etc. So what is the condition that the IMF has put to us? Honorable Speaker, is the policy of depending on aid. See, we are infected with this mentality that aid can really develop this country. I think that is where we have a problem. Because, Honorable Speaker, to try to depend on aid for long-term development is not a possibility. It's not possible. Aid is just meant for short-term. But to plan for the long-term, we have to do that on our own. And I believe that as long as we continue to believe that it is aid that is actually going to develop this country, we are failing. I give you an example. You take $20 million for Pasamas, Lamenkoto Pasamas Road, $20 million loan. And you are supposed to pay that in 20 years. But let's say before 20 years, the road goes into ruin. The inflation has gone out. Now you have to go and take another $30 million to be able to fix the same road. While you have already taken the $20 million, you have not paid that. You are not going to take another $20 or $30 million or even $40 million to be able to fix it back again. So all you are doing is increasing debt, increasing debt, increasing debt. So we can definitely exist without debt aid if we put our minds to it. What is happening to us is that we are not putting our minds to it. If you want to do away with it, you will put your mind to it. But if you believe that this is the answer to your problem, then it's natural with you. You will continue with it on a continuous basis. And we are told by this government in 2017, when we first came here, that their objective is a policy to continue to reduce aid, to continue to reduce loans. But we see that loans are increasing. They are increasing, they are not reducing. So let's put our mind to that. Honorable Speaker, we are also informed that the government has provided relief support to food items at the cost of $850 million to the most vulnerable in society. This is commendable. My only concern is that if it is sectoral, it usually creates a lot of inequality. It should be holistic. I'm not sure how holistic it is. Because if you look at the population, you have 48.8% of the people that are completely poor. So if you go and give it to 1,500, 2,500 here and there, I don't know how you are going to sustain that. How that can be a sustainable approach to ensure that we bridge the gap between people. Honorable Speaker, also in finance, the President talked about stock market, which is a good idea. We've been talking about stock market here, which he said will be based at the central bank. And we all know when you have stock market, it helps government to get loans domestically, which it can use for long-term investment. But the problem is that with stock market, you must secure the interest of the investor. If they are not secured, you know that they will not come to invest their money into that. Honorable Speaker, now I go into education. And if you look at education, the 1,389 classrooms are built by the MRC Holland. This is an NGO. And we all clap for them for building that. And also 2,500. He's saying point of order.
didn't clap here. He's clapping.
No, I say we clap for them. I did not clap. I only touched my hands. Hey, continue. 2,505 toilets. This MRC Holland and other NGOs. I believe if somebody is washing your back, you also need to wash your stomach. How much did the government build? How many classrooms did the government build in addition to this? That is what is going to help us to progress the education. But if we leave everything to NGOs and think that the NGOs are going to develop your country for you, maintenance will be coming. So we should think about that. Yes, Honorable Speaker, let me also applaud the MRC Holland because they built a high school in my constituency. So I am applauding them for that. It's not only the government that should applaud them. And they built a college in my region, in Basse. They also built a college in our region. Yes, thank you. So, but the president mentioned something very good. That is the Ndemban, as mentioned by Fuani Benefit. Not to be a drummer, just to. But that is something that we must encourage. Building skill centers, creating technology. We need that. We must know our objective, Honorable Speaker. What is our objective for higher education? What is the objective of the Gambia? What is our objective? Are we just looking for training people for white-collar jobs? Or are we interested in building our economy? Because, Honorable Speaker, there is a linkage between higher education and building the economy. So if that linkage is not recognized, it's like you are just giving education for the sake of education, but you are not creating the job market that will absorb those people coming from the university. It is the productive workforce that we must create at the university level, at the higher education level. Prepare our education system in such a way that relevant knowledge is what we are going to accrue from the universities and from the colleges, so that our economy will be able to expand and expand through that. There are countries we all know that have low literacy rate, but they are going faster than even those with high literacy rates. So it's not just about literacy, but it's about relevant, productive workforce that we must build. I give you an example. If you see somebody in a shop who has never sat down in a classroom, he has all that he learned is 1, 2, 3, 4, and he knows how to use the the calculator to be able to do his job. They become very effective and very enterprising. But you can have somebody from university, call him a PhD, but the knowledge he has is not relevant to the economy. And the person is just there. Wherever you put him, he's going to be around a square peg in a round hole. So that is not what we are looking for. We are looking for relevant knowledge so that whenever these people come out, they'll be able to go somewhere to be able to add up. Honorable Speaker, when we go to Interior, the President informed us that police are engaged in infrastructural development. But unfortunately, no figures were mentioned. Where are these structures? Police developing infrastructure. Very interesting. I want them to go to Makamasri. They say they have no resources, but now the President is telling us they are building structures all over the place. Where are these structures? That will be interesting. If the Minister of Interior is here, maybe we'll be able to help us what the Vice President could. Immigration has collected 91 million. But the question is the collection period. This is 2020. And the period under review, I believe, should be 2021. From January 2021 to September or to August 2021, how much is collected? Because the last suggestion I was making to the Minister of Interior here was for them to expand, go to villages. Don't allow villagers to come to you in Basi. It is expensive. If you are going to pay $450 for an ID card, but if you expect a villager to come from Fodekunda, to come to Basi and to go back, and when they process it, they will tell you, come for it on this day. That means that you are going to have 2 trips. 200 plus your lunch and you're crossing the ferry. The next time you come also, then it's going to be something like $1,000 for one ID card. But if the team goes to these places, I told him here that the income should maximize. And I know they have done some expansion. So what is the impact of that expansion? Honorable Speaker, let me go to page 5. Page 14. And if you look at point 5 of page 14, it's reported that the Department of Community Development is working amicably with the Department of Water Resources and the National Assembly to implement climate-smart rural water supply and sanitation development project. I don't know what role we have in implementing that project. So when the President says we are involved in it, I don't know how we are involved in it. Maybe the Vice President can help us. That the National Assembly is involved in the implementation of that project is something that needs to be clarified. Honorable Speaker, fisheries water resources. We are also informed by the President that 20 boreholes have been donated by the Japanese, government. And my question is, who is implementing these 20 boreholes? Because not everything is being implemented by the water resources. Sometimes it's another department that is doing that. Who is actually implementing these 20 boreholes? And it will be interesting to know where these 20 boreholes are located. You know, we are doing scrutiny now. So we need to know the location so that we know how to follow it to ensure that they are going on. Honorable Speaker, this is a sector that concerns almost all members of this august body. And I believe it is our responsibility to ensure, just like the member for Tumanna said, we need to put money in this sector to ensure our people have water, potable drinking water. If we want to meet their economic and social rights, we must do that. We must do that. We cannot allow our people to be taking water from, open wells and drinking that in this period of the century. That will not be the best thing. So their social and economic rights must be protected, and we alone can protect that. We cannot depend on 20 boreholes from Japan, 100 boreholes from this place, when everybody needs this. Even if we bring the bill, as long as money is not put there for people to have water, the bill will be counterproductive. Honorable Speaker, on trade, industry, and employment, and that's page 19. Page 19, there are 18 special investment certificates, SICs, that the President said have been issued in 2020. And the combined investment portfolio for that, he said, is $93 million. And that should also give us 824 staff members. So if the Minister of Trade could help us to know where in the economy are these investments going? Because it's like FDI. So which area? Is it shopping? Is it supermarkets, or is it in the productive base? That will be very, very useful for us to know. It will be I'll be clapping if it is in the productive base. If the investment is going into the productive base, I'll be much happier. But you could help us to know that. Because that is what is going to help us to boost exports. We must be able to produce in agriculture, industrialize it, finish products, then we'll be able to export, and that's the only way we can compete in the international market and accrue what should be accrued to us. But unless we do that, it's like we are not going anywhere. We are just going to be importers of everything and exporting nothing. And that is the reason why the dollar will always appreciate against the dollar. And we all know when the dollar appreciates against the dollar, prices of goods must go up. Because every time you want to buy a dollar, it's appreciating against your currency. Every time you want to buy the dollar, it's appreciating against your currency. So every time you go and buy something with the dollar, when you bring it, it will not be cheap. And that's why sugar and all these commodities cannot be controlled. Because we are not doing anything to also export, to be able to get the dollar, to be able to appreciate our dollars. That's not what we are doing. We just want to depend on service, the service sector. That will not help us. And Honorable Speaker, you know, we are elected representatives. We are all going back to elections. It's not only the president who is concerned about being re-elected. We are also concerned. And so we must stand here to defend the interests of our people. Grandiose projects, the president will go and announce that, I built this there, I built this there. But we are going to say, they are going to tell us, market. The shallow is very expensive. This is very expensive. You people, you are not doing anything about it. You people, but we are doing something because we are supporting the president. Whatever, he thanks us here. Whatever he brings here, we support it. So nobody should blame this National Assembly for not supporting things. We are all supporting everything, and everything is going smoothly. Even those who are drumming know that we have collectively been supporting what has happened. Honorable Speaker, on gender, children, and social welfare, you will learn that later when I meet you separately. The objective for that area is to engage the women in micro, small, and medium enterprises, as the President alluded to in page 25. But if you look at the figures that he offered us, that needs to be looked at very closely. Because he's saying you have $8 million, and you are going to give this $8 million to 15,000 groups. It means that if you really check that, by my own calculation, it's like each group will receive 533 dollars or so. Maybe 500, and it's either 553, 33,000. Maybe that is, but maybe that's their objective, because I don't think $533 will be something that is. But if you look at 8 million, in another area, 8,315,000, that will be going to be given to 103 groups, women groups. And each there will receive $77,000. You are just wondering, the women's group, if you give them 77,000, what are they going to be engaged in? And then in the other area, you are going to give them 7 million to 350 groups. And that means that each group will receive 20,000. That appears not very helpful to those groups. So what sort of enterprises, Honorable Speaker, are these women groups involved in that could definitely impact, since they are going to be paying back the amount in addition to the interest of 3% or so? If you give something to a group, it should be substantial enough so that when they use it, they'll be able to accrue some interest so that payment will be easier for them. But if you just give it to them and then they share it among each other and they put it into Ingente and Manota and all these things, and then when it is payment, they have to sell their sheep and goats and all this, that is not helpful. It must be something that they can use and it can be sustainable. That's what we are looking for. That's the only way you are going to sustain micro businesses and small enterprises and medium-sized enterprise. You cannot call that a medium-sized enterprise. It cannot be called that. And if you look at on page 26, the president also said, that is point 9, he said that in September, 10,000 dialysis will be required to meet the demand for the additional 400 women groups that are assessed. 10,000 dialysis for 400 women. 400 women. If you divide that, I don't know how much each. If you divide, you are laughing. Okay. I think that one must be a mistake. Because that means that each group will just get $25. Or each person will get $25. That's what it means. I don't know how that can actually satisfy those women. Also in point 11 of the same page, if you divide 200, he said, turning to another intervention, the ministry provided $200,000 to support 80 vulnerable families and 40 vulnerable elderly persons under the Family Strengthening Program. These efforts target sustainable solutions within the sector. But if you also divide, if you add 80 families plus 40 vulnerable elders, then you have 120. And if we divide 200,000 among them, it's like each will get something like $1,666. And the objective here is sustainable solutions to sustain them, to ensure that they are sustained. I think that also is on the low side. Honorable Speaker, if we come to agriculture, like my honorable friend there, Tumanna said, there are many figures there, but I don't want to really go into all those figures. We don't have that time. The way the government has been handling the agriculture sector, Honorable Speaker, should be looked at. Because you see, if you want to follow all this Washington consensus, and there are these Bretton Woods conditions and all this, you should not subsidize this, you should not do this, you should not help your farmers, etc. You are just going to keep us here for eternity. We will not go anywhere. We must digress. They are subsidizing their farmers. America, Europe, they are putting back rice into the sea to their fish, just so that it does not come to the market. So if we want to follow those people and say we should not help our farmers, we will not go anywhere. So looking for charity and giving it to the farmers will not solve the farmers' problem. You are an agriculturalist. You know that. How many years? More than 56 years. We are looking for charity from the outside to give it to our farmers. We don't want to put our own cash money to the farmer. And the farmers are here sustaining all of us. We must take agriculture seriously. It is our lifeblood. You see why people are still bent on growing ground. They depend on it. It's not only the cash. If you don't have Domoda in the provinces, you will come back very soon. You will not stay there for long. But if you look at the things that they say they are giving to the farmers, 3,751 bags of improved rice varieties, 36,000 bags of fertilizer, 727 bags of maize, 11 bags of findi. This is what they give to our farmers. It's like we are just waiting. Whatever we get through charity, we give them, but we don't want to budget it for them and give it to them so that they grow. They are not there just to grow to feed their stomach. No. They are also interested in all the things that we are interested. They want good medical health, medical care. They want their children to be educated. They want good clothing. They want good housing. They need electricity. They need water. Everything that we need, they also need it. They must grow more than their food. And if we don't support them, they will not make progress. They will not be able to grow out of that condition. It's like we trapped them there. We neglected them. Even the $100 million, if we give it to them, if you hear, they are talking about buying donkey carts and giving it to, I don't know, donkey, horse-drawn or donkey carts, donkey-drawn carts. That's what they have given to the farmers. 100 million. What we expected from them, what we are told here, is let them look for a project that is home-drawn, internally looked at, that will benefit our farmers, that will uplift them from the condition that they are, so that they will be able to come from that trap of poverty. But if you give them donkey cars, which they already have, you give them horse cars, that's what they want to come out of. And you know they are mentioning 50 tractors. It is important to know how those tractors have been distributed, because I was in my constituency twice during this rainy season, and people are all over the place asking me about tractor. I had to put in my pocket and even pay for plowing for some of these people. I said, well, you are supposed to get a tractor. I believe every constituency is supposed to have a tractor. But you could not see the tractor. Now we are informed that there are tractors distributed where? It's important for us to know, so that we track. And under what condition? How are they managing those tractors in case they are spoiled? Honorable Speaker, I did not hear the President say anything about, and don't tell me you are digressing, because mining sector is very important. And we know that the Auditor General's report is very fishy. There was nothing accruing from there. So I believe that needs to be also clear. What are the challenges there in the management of the income that should come from that place? And if you go to works, my last bit, transports, works and infrastructure, I think that's the last area, page 41. Page 41. There is, I think I don't know how this thing has been framed, because if you read it, it appears that it's very clumsy. It says the government had achieved 100% completion of the 818-kilometer primary road network set in the NDP. Okay? This covers the north and south banks of the country. Now, 818 kilometers, which includes Lamenkoto Pasamas Road. But if you go to the second leg, that is 2, in addition to the paved distance of 650 kilometers, also completed 120 kilometers of the Lamenkoto Pasamas Road. That one includes Lamenkoto Pasamas. The second leg also includes Lamenkoto Pasamas. And the 48-kilometer road from Basse to Koina. So the Basse to Koina does not include the 818. And Lamenkoto appears to be included there, but it appears also not included there. We need that clarification. Is Lamenkoto Pasamas included in this 800 or is not included? That needs to be clear to us. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we should try to just follow the strategy that he used. If you refer to the page on the address, it helps everybody to follow. In case he misquotes or he misses a point, then we'll all be together. Honorable Member for Kantora.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the floor. I also want to join my colleagues to recognize the presence of Her Excellency the Vice President, the media fraternity here in present. Honorable Speaker, I equally want to seize the opportunity to thank the President for fulfilling a constitutional mandate for at least once in a year to come to Parliament, attend a sitting of the Parliament, inform the states on policies and program of government. Having said that, I wouldn't go through the entire booklet, but I will choose sectors of preference. And I will leave the rest to the honourable members here to dilute on. Honourable Speaker, I want to start with the giant step. That is the Ministry of Water Resources, the giant step taken by them to come up with a National Water Resource Council Act. To review that particular act, rather, and then come up with a legal instrument that will be used in terms of monitoring, implementation, evaluation, hygiene and sanity of waters that will be, or boreholes that will be drilled in this country. I've said it here time without number, that is high time for the government to take policy initiative, to take policy direction, to address the so much proliferation of borehole in country. We recognize that we are in a political season. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is trying to drill a borehole to canvass for vote. The modality in which it's drilled, the safety of the borehole, the hygiene of the water need to be controlled or regulated. Because I am of the conviction that what we consume has a direct replica or has a direct bearing on our health system. The issue of diarrhea, dysentery, and co are emanated from our intake of food and drinks. So when those ones are actually controlled carefully, we can address the issue of referrals. We can help in reducing number of sick patients going to the hospitals. Honorable Speaker, having said that, as the Vice Chair Committee of Trade in Parliament, I want to applaud the government effort in terms of strengthening trade cooperation and promotion. That should be on page 19. The sector produced during this year on the review an AFCFTA National Implementation Strategy to implement the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement Protocol. This very protocol has been signed and ratified in this very assembly. However, will give a precautionary measures to the ministry not to liberalize everything. As a country, we've taken a giant step, a giant decision to open up our country for intra-African trade. And we are not of the same footing of other African countries, such as South Africa, Nigeria, who has a productive capacity. And I'm afraid for them not to actually use us as a dumping ground. We'll have to keep some sensitive goods that are dear to our country and also have revenue implication, not to liberalize those ones. If not, we might stand to lose revenue. And also call on the ministry to double its effort you are opening your market for an inter-African trade, you must have all what it takes, the ground footing, to make sure that we also go industrious. It calls for a revolution in the sector. It calls for an industrial evolution. And as a ministry in charge for employment, job creation, and trade, have a big chunk on their table to make sure that Gambia benefit from this wonderful initiative. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, I would like to touch on infrastructure. That should be on page 41. I think it's incumbent as a beneficiary of a 75 or $81 million project grant from the Republic of China to add my voice to the ministry and the government to show our solidarity, to show our appreciation to the Republic of China for the grant given to Gambian government to construct roads and bridges in URR. In no little terms, this has really changed lives and livelihood. It has impacted positively in the lives of people in the URR, ranging from communication sector. We've seen movement of goods and persons flowing through and out of the country through the Nyamanar border post, through Basse or Sabi border post. This has been attained as a result of the motorable road condition provided under this China aid grant. It also impacted positively in the lives of the health sector. Whereas now, gone are the days whereby referrals or pregnant women from Fatoto in my constituency cruising through Basse is actually reduced the suffering on the road. It normally takes us an ambulance with full speed then 2 hours to 3. But now, within the twinkle of an eye, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you will find yourself in Basse. So I think let us give Caesar what belongs to Caesar, to thank His Excellency the President, and of course, by extension, the government of China for coming to our aid at the right moment and the right time. People were of the perception that is URR really part of this country because of the long-term neglect. They've been detached from this part of the world, and that is why the rural-urban drift was unavoidable. Now people are free to take their exotic cars to URR because of the good road network. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, I also want to touch on the Ministry of Defense and Security. We appreciate the tremendous effort our men in uniform are rendering to this country. In no small amount are they contributing in terms of maintaining the dignity, the sovereignty of this country as a state. If we see, we can sit here, deliberate on issues of national importance. There are men in uniform that are standing at the border posts, that are standing in the streets to make sure that sanity, to make sure that tranquility, to make sure that peace and stability prevails in this country. So we also want to call upon the ministry to really consider the plight of the JFA and other security apparatus. And more importantly, we applaud the effort. If you look at page 40, it says, as part of the security sector reform, we'll continue to embark on a more purposeful, realistic training programs of our armed forces that we have entrusted them with security of the nation, and we support them to the fullest. This speaks volume. And I think as a nation, we have to join hands together to make sure that these men in uniform serve this country with dignity and pride and uprightness, to give them every opportunity, to give them every treatment they deserve, to make sure that they actually execute their function as expected. Honorable Speaker, as I told you earlier on, I wouldn't really go through the entire booklet, but I would choose areas of preference to digress on them and then make my intervention. Honorable Speaker, we want to thank the Ministry of Agriculture for the timely supply of farm inputs. When I say farm inputs, I mean the fertilizers that are sent to different depots to make sure that we achieve what we call a bumper harvest. And when I get to this stage, we've seen the 36,489 bags of fertilizer, 3,751 bags of improved rice varieties that are given to farming community, all geared towards in terms of eradicating famine or hunger and create food sufficiency. However, I will add recommendations to the Ministry of Agriculture. It's not enough to give farmers varieties, but we have to, as a country, shift from the normal subsistence farming to embrace commercial farming. Also to do away from the seasonal farming. I said it in my last intervention here when people say that we keep importing because we do not put a lot of input. You cannot expect in 1970 or 1980 the groundnut we normally have in this country. ×2 of that is being grown in this country, but yet we cannot feed ourselves. Logically, it tells you that the population has increased. It tells you that the demand on groundnut, the demand on rice is on the increase. So because of that high demand, like if we travel to our local households in our villages, the same farmland that we found our great-grandfathers and fathers farming, those are the exact farm again we are using. And we expect those same farm size, farmlands, to sustain us. That's a big mistake. That is why, if they are dependent, or if they were dependent on seasonal farming, that cannot sustain us now. We have to embark on irrigation. There has to be, we are endowed with this fresh water in Duara, the river. We can embark on irrigation, whereby at least thrice in a year, every 3 months we can harvest. It's only through those kind of serious intervention that we can help reduce the inflow or the importation of rice in this country. So, and also we cannot blame government for the increase in rice prices. You dictate what you can grow. You dictate the okra price in the market. You dictate the what else? The carrot price in the market, because you cannot dictate the price of rice in the total market. You don't grow it. So it's logic. So basically, if we want to dictate and condition the price of rice in the market, we must make sure that there's bumper harvest. So I think as people representatives, sometimes it's also very important to be honest to the people you represent. To tell them that government has no magic. There is no miracle government can perform to reduce the price of rice. Honest lies on us to make sure that these things are reduced. So sometimes it's good to be more realistic and honest to people you represent, not to only do the usual blame game that government is doing this thing is here and there. And also, more importantly, the COVID issue. Countries are also recovering from COVID. You could see the normal price of containers now has tripled. Demand for containers are everywhere. So these are various factors sometimes that also dictate price of these commodities. Honorable Speaker, still on agriculture, the issue of tractors. I want to call on the ministry to have a relook on the issue of the tractors allocations. This is supposed to go into the farming committees, not to politicize them. And also, there has to be a mechanism in terms of whereby these tractors could be serviced and also be accounted for. The manner in which these tractors have been issued in URR is nothing to be pleased about, because even the governor there is not involved, and it's been given to various people. And this, I really want to take it up at the probably mid-farmer store to call on the ministry to look at various allocations of these tractors. These are very, very important things. And the manner in which, because in every constituency, you have a committee, farming committee, structured farming committees. It should be handed over them, and also they also make sure that they do routine maintenance of the tractors if they are to serve longevity or they are to serve, durable. So mechanism has to be divided. It should be devised to make sure that these things are put in place. Next on my list is the remarks of the president. I want to, page 52. It reads concluding remarks. Isn't it? Madam Speaker? Okay. These remarks are really touching, and this is what we really expect from him. It comes at the right time, at the crucial moment, that every stakeholder in this country should preach peace. The peace and stability of this country beholds on each and every stakeholder, be it religious leaders, be it National Assembly members, be it political party heads, be it any influential person in the community. We must make sure that the peace continue to prevail, because that is what we keep singing in the national anthem, that let's peace each day, let there be a peace each and every single day. And in our dealing with our electorate also, we must make sure that we preach peace, as there is also always a just judge. That is why in the anthem also, it said that may justice guide our actions. These are very powerful words. May justice guide our actions. As stakeholders, as people's representatives, is not only the responsibility of the executive and the security forces. Rather, he is calling for a collective effort, a collective will to make sure that we all advocate for the peace and tranquility of this country. That we don't have any other country but the Gambia. That is why he's very optimistic that when we do that, point 5, the future is much brighter today because of the opportunity created from 2017 to date. Now we can forge ahead with insightful lessons from the past and the present. The future is bright today because of the combined effort of everybody. And that combined effort must keep going to make sure that generations yet unborn would actually enjoy the peace and tranquility of this country. Honorable Speaker, my last intervention will be on the Ministry of Information, Communication Technology. I keep advocating here that I'm a great fan of ICT and of the conviction that when we embrace ICT, e-governance, let's have it as a pilot project, because he has actually touched, in order to maintain a conducive environment of media, the government acceleration, regulation, and policy reforms over the past year. I'm glad that Access of Information Bill 2019 has now been enacted into law. We also look forward to enactment of ICT Act Amendment Bill 2020 in August Assembly. The ICT sector is very crucial. There is no magic behind the development in Uganda, in Rwanda rather. It's just ICT. They embrace ICT, utilize it, maximize it, catapult the economy, transform their country within a short period of time. The world is really going. So we cannot say because, yes, well, we'll still be using the normal office recording, books here and there, printing. These are all expensive. If this parliament would even set the example. I was lucky to travel to Kenya in their parliament. You have a tablet, a tab in front of every single MP. Business of the days are sent in there. Other papers are sent in there. These records of proceedings that you stress so much, wasting papers and carbon, printing them, could be avoided. Could be avoided. Receiving these things, it's expedite the process. We have to, it's a time that this parliament go to what I call paper smart. We have to go paper smart. In fact, people are even bored. I bet you if you go around, under the tables, you see them packed, all these, all these documents.
And Honorable, they will keep on asking that the reports, and we don't have copies of the report.
Thank you very much.
So whose fault?
Thank you very much. They keep on asking, Honorable Speaker, I haven't got this bill. I didn't get it. No, it's a matter of just sending it on an email, you access it, and you are there. It saves the country resources. It saves the parliament resources. So I think it's very important that when this bill is enacted in August, we embrace this paper smart parliament. Reduce the heavy workload of carrying paper in and out. And also, this could even be a pilot project at the municipality level. Municipalities are losing revenues in terms of duplicating receipts. I don't want to say it here, but there are instances in Basi whereby people are caught, duplicating receipts and then giving people, issuing to shop owners, the Mauritanians, and asking them to pay money. So when these things are now computerized, we've embraced ICT, and even our government, you would see the level of revenue leakages that we are facing now will be addressed. So in fact, it will even add value to the long-awaited, anticipated, anti-corruption bill. So everything will be digitalized. And let me tell you, Honorable Speaker, if we use ICT, we could even double our revenue collection. In terms of right now, the Ministry of Communication does not have a clue on how much megabytes are spent in a day. What they receive from these GSM operators are voice calls. And now communication pattern has changed totally. People are spending more money on bytes, megabytes, than even regular calls. So I think they have to change the narrative now that, okay, we're not going to charge only on the voice call, but also a megabyte. And also, we could use ICT to even reduce the level of theft cases in this country. For instance now, if I suppose to travel from Europe and come with 3 phones, 10 phones, let him go with it. Just have a contract agreement with GSM operators. Once you slot in a SIM card, they'll ask you go and register it. So every registration attracts $100. Some members are having 3 phones, 4 phones, 5 phones.
Point of observation, he is deviating.
I'm not deviating.
Actually,
no, you are deviating. This was what happened to the colleague.
Keep, please, can you allow me?
Can you?
What you are saying, is it part of the president's address?
Very, very.
No, it's not.
Very,
No.
Let
Please,
me refer
as I
you.
said, no, let's be fair.
Let me refer you.
No. Although if you say it all, then there's no need for my intervention.
Okay.
What is stated, that is why I always say, refer to the page.
Yeah.
What it says here is, one, the COVID-19 pandemic has reinforced the need for increased ICT-driven solutions. So much so that the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology has prioritized the rollout of a national technology hub this year. And it goes on and on and on. But it seems as if you are going into...
You see, that technology hub...
Yeah, the hub. Let's focus.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. That technology hub...
Please, Honorable Member for Basik, and we welcome, but please.
That technology hub is where you have all these QCell, AfriCell, and Co. That ICT is where you have all this communication. So I am trying to see what we anticipate, what we're expecting from this thing, in terms of helping government to secure revenue. I think I'm in line, Honorable Speaker. Yes. Don't mind these distractors. Okay.
I am just going by the procedures.
So
please.
Basically, and also when this thing comes into force, it can reduce the cybercrime. Let me refer you on page 20. It says the ministry will table cybercrime. Page 20. The ministry will table both before this August Assembly. Once they are finalized, their enactment will equip the Gambia with a requisite law of fighting cybercrime-related offenses. People of this country have been crying, wanting that they are hacking my account. My Facebook account has been hacked. My bank has been hacked here and there. So I am telling you that through this embracing ICT, this could be averted. So I was just trying to finish up and then lay my foundation. And then thank you so much for giving me the floor. I really appreciate the time, and thank you so much, all the members, for their indulgence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Jara East. Yes, but please, can you just allow me, let me suspend, before calling on you, just suspend the sitting for just 3 minutes. We'll be just right back. Please, just 3 minutes, so that we can proceed and then adjourn for the day. So can we just suspend for 3 minutes, please?
boy. At least one day I'm going to swear. I'm going to dia.